so I'm glad you brought that up because I did want to ask you about the bond litigation. So basically, it's Aaron Starr once again suing the city, and because of that lawsuit, and again, in simple terms, if you can explain exactly how this works. Now, normally the city doesn't want to pay cash for everything, right? Because then you
Right.
deplete your general fund, your cash, and so forth. So a lot of the times, what cities do is they'll create bonds, right, to help
Correct.
pay for this.
Right.
And so because of this lawsuit now, the city cannot seek bonds for projects that in this case, there's some projects that were already on the books, ready to go and
Right.
everything, and that's gonna be a halt to that. So can you let the people know exactly what's going on?
Okay. Well, so the council and our financing authority approved $45 million worth of bonds, some of it for our ERP system, the computer-wide system, and some of it for the streets and alley reconstruction, which we were also forced to do because of a measure in initiative before where we had to get our roadways to a certain
Right.
grading. And similar to school, 0 being the lowest and 100 being an A, our roads were anywhere. We were not an A, let's just say.
Right.
I believe we were at 63. They call that pavement condition index. We were at a 63, and we need to get to a 70 because of that. So we've been investing a lot in streets and roadways, sometimes at the expense of other improvements that the community wants, and we understand that. But we're kind of fighting on all battles. So we went to issue bonds so that we could improve the streets. I mean, they are a major asset within the city. We can't have them deteriorate.
Right.
They also protect other assets underneath the roadway that we need if we would like water and sewer and all those other really important things. So at this point, we need to keep fixing the roadways and maintaining them, not only because our community deserves better roadways, but because they're a big asset. So we have recommended that the council, even though we can't get the bonds, which would be the way that you would fund them, because a road doesn't serve just you and me today. That road's going to serve us for years to come. So often those are what you are going to bond for because they're serving multiple generations, so they pay for it over time. Instead, you would use your general fund for your normal services, your police, your fire, your recreation, those things, because they're serving that person today. So in this case, we can't get the bonds. We won't be able to get any bonds until this is resolved. So we're recommending cash funding to the tune of $18 million in this upcoming year for both streets and the ERP system. That's $18 million that's not going to recreation. That's not going to police and fire, to our IT department, to any of those other needs. I mean, you name it, they're not able to get that money.
Now, that seems to me, and this is my word, that it's kind of like Starr sabotaging the city. I mean, first he puts out a measure where, like you were talking about the road index, and you were trying to meet that, and then with this, now that's going to jeopardize that. So to me, it's just me talking, but it's like he's sabotaging the whole success of what the city has been doing because. Again, in my opinion, I mean, we're finally on the road to recovery. We're looking good, and then this happens. So, I don't like it one bit.
And I don't want to harp on it, but those are just the active projects that we had. I mean, that was things that we were already underway on that would come to a halt if council didn't make this difficult decision to put the cash towards it. But we had a multitude of other projects that were in the pipeline. I mean, we had senior centers that were supposed to be renovated. We had a new senior center that was supposed to be under construction. Fire stations, quite a few renovations to the fire station. I mean, we're an old city where these resources have been around for a long time. They're essential to the services that we provide to our community. I mean, with the aquatic center, seawalls, a number of items that we anticipated issuing the bonds for, because again, they're multi-generational projects. It allows more cash in the current year that you have to be able to provide those other services and pay for that over time. But all of that has to be on pause until the bond litigation is complete.
So all of this has to be put on pause, or if there's important projects, then the city has to pay cash for that.
Correct.
Right? So one scenario I often give is it would be like me having money in the bank, but I want to buy a house, but I don't want to pay cash for the house because then I don't have any money left. So instead, I get a mortgage for it that's paid over 30 years or whatever. So that's kind of the scenario with this, right? Where because a lot of cities they issue bonds and everything. So why is Star picking on Oxnard? Like, isn't this what other cities do?
It is. It's very common. I mean, and building on the individual home example, imagine your family was over 200,000 people. I mean, we're talking about a home on a massive scale. We're talking about a home that has 200,000 plus toilets. You know, I mean, it's hard to even equate it to just a home when you talk about the size of Oxnard and the community that we're serving and all the services that we provide. We are a full service city, police, fire, all utilities, all of that. So I get it that it's easier to understand that on a personal budget, but we have to provide on so many different facets for our community, and they deserve that. That's what they expect of us, and that's what they should expect of us.
Yeah, no, absolutely.